Do we pay the full purchase price for a business in full at completion? Well, the simple answer to that is no. And the reasons why we don't do that is that ultimately to fund these transactions, there's a number of moving parts. Firstly, there's the debt that we're going to install into the business. We want to make sure that any new debt that's introduced into the business is able to be paid for out of its future cash flows. So we don't want to over leverage the business. That's the first part. The second part is that there is always going to be a degree of deferred consideration to the seller, which is effectively the seller acting as the bank. So we will pay whatever the purchase price is, a meaningful sum up front, some of that will be payable over time. And what that does is it does two things. One, it makes the transaction viable because what we found since the 2008-2009 financial crash is that banks really aren't interested in lending to management buy-ins. I could be the most experienced operator in a particular industry, but tier one banks typically won't fund acquisitions because the risk is just too high. And I think that's borne out of the fact that 95% of business startups fail in the first 5 years, only 1% make it to £1 million turnover, and only 0.1% make it to 10 million. So the risk to the bank is quite significant. So we have to ask the seller to stand in as the bank. So we will pay the seller over a period of time. And the other important point is that we are creating then a vested interest for the seller. One of the most important things that we want to protect when we take over a business is the goodwill. So we don't want key staff to leave. We don't want people in the supply chain to get jittery. We don't want key customers to go elsewhere. So if the seller is going to work with us in an orderly handover, rather than pay the star employee to leave, they're going to stick around, help with that handover, protect the goodwill, help us establish those relationships with customers, staff and suppliers. And obviously if they've got a vested interest because they haven't received all of the money, it means that they're going to hopefully be more motivated to stick around.